do is, since it's focused over here, I will talk from over here, so I'll have disembodied voice the whole time. So what was this week's reading about? Yeah.
Abraham.
Abraham. What about Abraham?
That God promised you would have as many descendants as the stars.
All right. What else about Abraham? Who was the sons? Don't look at Mom. Look at me. That's the agreement we have with the guys, man. They're not going to bail you out on questions. Starts with an I. Ivan. Yeah. What?
Isaac.
Isaac, and his son was? Isaac had 3 sons, right?
Did he have 2?
Girls in the back. Isaac had 3 sons, right?
No.
Isaac had 3 sons, right?
What?
Isaac had 4 sons, right? I like this, how everybody's bumping each other down. Alright? Isaac had how many sons, somebody? 2 sons. Their names were?
What?
2 sons. They had 2 sons, right. Their names were what? Yes?
Jacob and Esau.
Jacob and Esau. Very good. Alright. That's a good rough in on that. Alright. It is important for you to read that section. Who read? Be honest with me now. Who read the section? Alright. Those of you guys that have your hands up, you guys need to read the sections. Okay? Alright. In here. It's important to read, alright? Because when you read, we can do more stuff. Okay? You know what I'm talking about? It says, if you read the lesson, I don't have to worry about you knowing the basic facts in here. I don't have to waste your time with the basic facts. We could talk about more interesting stuff about what does it mean. Okay? Which is a lot more fun to do for all of us. Okay? So if you're reading it first, it's easier to do. Now we'll review it as we go through and dig down into it. You'll see, you saw last week, we'll see how we're doing again. Okay? All right. Let me do this. What did I do? Okay. Hop along over here. Oh, there. Let's look at last
In the
week's.
beginning, God spoke and created the entire world. Then God created man out of dirt. God told Adam, eat from any tree except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Eventually, God created a woman. God joined Adam and Eve together in marriage. A serpent came and convinced Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God cursed the serpent as well as Adam and Eve and forced them out of the garden. Wickedness and tragedy continued to spread. God found one man, Noah, who walked faithfully. So God instructed Noah to build a giant boat, and the entire earth was flooded, wiping out every living thing. Eventually, the flood stopped, and the ark came to rest on dry land. God made a promise that the entire earth would never again be completely flooded, and God looked for someone to bless the entire world.
All right. We've been talking in here. Last week, we're going to keep doing it. Upper story and lower story, remember? Story, right? The big picture story and the little picture story, all right? In this passage, think back, this is last week, making you go back a little bit, all right? What's the upper story we talked about last week? You can use your notes. Use your book if you want to. Yes, go ahead.
A promise?
Okay, good. What's the promise?
That God would never flood the world again.
All right, God would never flood the world again. Was that the first promise or the second promise? Second. Okay, what's the first promise? You guys had it last week, yeah.
Didn't he tell Adam and Eve that he would send a savior?
Yes! There you go. All right, remember? All right? So the story begins with, right? It's a typical story, right? Story begins with everything's good, right? And then what happened? And what happened? One Direction released a video. No. Grace. Right?
The tree of knowledge.
Right. Okay. And what happened with that? I shouldn't hear you. What happened? They burned it down. What?
Yeah, I agree with you.
They burned it down. They burned it down? The knowledge, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they burned down?
No.
Oh, what did they do then? Yes.
Then they ate the apple
They ate, right? And why is that a problem?
because God told them not to.
Because God told them not to, right? Okay. This is like a typical story. You guys write stories or read stories, right? Okay. Things start good, then there's a problem. And you spend most of the rest of the book solving the problem, right? Okay. In here. So you've got in here, there's your problem in here is this sin comes into the world. You spent a lot of time last week talking about it. You guys were right on about God forgiving Adam and Eve's sins. God forgives our sins. That we're Adam and Eve. You guys were right there last week in that discussion. Okay. I was proud of you because you hit it right off the bat. Okay. So that was last week's story. You saw that everything was good. You had the sin in here, and then you had, right? Why did God have Noah build the ark? Okay, why?
Because all the people, they were not faithful.
Exactly. Right? So God's going to change the direction of this story. So now you're at Abraham here. All right? For your reading. Everybody read today, right? Everybody read today, right? So not very good. Everybody not very good. Okay.
Everything they would do.
Here you go. Oh. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There once was a man named Abram, who was a descendant of Noah. God told him to move with his wife Sarai, an entire family away from where they lived. God made a promise. I will make you into a great nation and bless you, and all of the people on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram and his family left. At one point, they stopped and God told him to look around. All the land that you see, I will give to you and your children. Then, one night, God took Abram outside. Look up and count the stars. This is the number of children you have. But Abram was already 75 years old, and Sarai was way too old to have children. So they decided that Sarai's servant Hagar should have Abram's child. Hagar became pregnant and gave birth to a son named Ishmael. Yet God told Abram again, you will be the father of many nations. God changed their names to Abraham and Sarah and promised that it would be through Sarah that God's blessing would come. Exactly as God promised, Sarah became pregnant, giving birth to a son named Isaac. When Isaac was still a young boy, God told Abraham to take his son up on a mountain and sacrifice him. Abraham took Isaac, laid him on an altar, and took out his knife to kill him. But an angel stopped Abraham, and God provided a ram to sacrifice in place of Isaac. Years later, Abraham and Sarah died and left everything they owned to Isaac. Isaac married and had twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Esau was Isaac's favorite, and as the oldest, he was set to gain his father's inheritance. But Jacob wanted the inheritance, so he came up with a scheme to trick his father, who was now old and blind, into promising it to him. He dressed in Esau's clothes and put animal skin on his hands, because Esau's hands were very hairy. Confused, Isaac gave his blessing to Jacob and promised him the inheritance instead of Esau. This caused a huge fight, one that almost ended in murder before they went their own ways. Thankfully, they reunited, and God promised to bless Jacob's family. Jacob had 12 sons of his own, and like his father and grandfather before him, Jacob had a favorite son. Little did Jacob know that his favoritism would put his son, Joseph, in danger of being killed by his own brothers.
All right? It's a story about what? Somebody give me all of us the 2-sentence summary. Yeah.
So Abraham and Sarah, they're in their old age, but then God tells them that they're going to have as many kids as stars in the sky, and then
All right. Stars in the sky. Keep going. Somebody help them. A little more in the story. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you keep the same family keeps growing, and yeah, like every time one son comes up with even more. So technically, Abraham's still gonna have like as many sons as the stars, since it's gonna be one big family.
Okay. It's a story about what? Upper story, big picture. What is it? In the back. Let somebody in the back. It's a story about pizza. Family. Thank you. You guys know these answers, right? Okay. What I'd like you to do right now, I've got handed the sheet. I want you to turn it over on the back side of the sheet. All right? You know what I'm talking about? Yes, ma'am.
Can I borrow pens?
If I got,
Can I borrow a pen?
I got one.
Does anybody have two?
There. Okay. That's all I got. Okay. You need to bring, when you bring your stuff, you need to bring, Ty, did you bring your book and stuff? Make sure you bring your book. Okay? And something to write with, okay? In here. All right, what I want you to do, does everybody know what a family tree is?
Yeah.
I want you to write your family tree.
Oh, I
Start with you at the bottom and go up a couple of generations if you can.
I can go up one
Or at
generation.
least one. All right.
Okay, so.
Do your best. All right? Just do your best. Okay?
Just do my notes.
All right? Trust me, no matter how complicated yours is, it's not going to be near as complicated as the one we're doing.
Wait, do we have to write down our parents' names or just mom and dad?
Just our first name's fine. Yeah.
Oh.
If you get up as far as your grandparents, that's fine. You don't have to go past your grandparents. Unless you're just... It's all right. If you don't know the names, that's good. Okay? Okay. I had to collect these at the end because I'll be able to tell who the rigid get it done people are, because they're the ones that have complete with names and everything. All right, who's still working? All right, give you another 15 seconds. All right, in your groups, what I want you to do is get in your groups real fast and simply share it with each other. All right?
Okay, so I'll go my dad's name. My dad's name. Mine is a little bit complicated. Because everyone got to It'd be wrong. Oh, actually, it's R-I-O-Y. Hold on.
Oh man, you did a bunch. So you're doing
My Mommy.
wow.
Bye, Mom. Love you. Live and yo, love you.
Oh, I love these. She have two brothers.
That's my grandma.
This is your mom, Kelly and Brian. And so Kelly has a brother named Ben. That's your uncle. So then that's their parents. So then you have okay, so then Brian has two.
Oh, I didn't do that one. Yeah, I should have done my
Dad's name is Jim. Not sure if it's
Right.
you know,
Wait, that means his name. I know.
Move on. Can't remember. That's okay. I think it's Catherine. Yes. And he has two other brothers, right? Is what you're saying? And so, and then, okay. You did good too. Very, very good.
My mom's
Sam, how you doing?
Hi.
Okay, that's perfect. That was good to do. And you could take, oh yeah, you need to do one more. I know, you just did you. Carol, you did perfect. You did good too, Sam. You took it out. Okay, Justin.
Well, I had mine on scratch there, so I was kind of sure.
Let me see how you do
How you guys doing?
You started out with me.
Okay. Let me explain because
Okay, you done?
I don't know.
Okay.
So, I'm not going to start from me. Okay.
Slow.
So, it started with my grandma's dad.
Ladies in the back, you got yours done?
Yeah.
Everybody share.
Okay, so my grandma's dad.
Oh, no, that's like,
And my grandma's mom had her, and then she got married to my grandpa Norman. And then they had my dad.
You got it.
And their.
Okay, everybody's got it? All right.
And then he got married.
So this is mine. When you were doing it, I wrote mine on the board here for you. All right. This is me down here. Okay. I will start up here at the top. Okay. My grandparents on my father's side were a guy by the name named Orville, and my grandmother was a lady by the name of Gertie. Great old names. Okay. They had one child, my father, named Herschel. All these have died, right? Yeah. On my mother's side, I can't remember my grandfather on my mother's side. He died a long time before I was born. Okay. My mother was like 12. Okay. So it was a long time ago. But my mother's mother, my grandmother on my mother's side was named Elsie. All right. My mother is the youngest of three. Her older brother was Bob. Her older sister was Lois. These two both have died as well. Okay. My mother is the one that's still living. okay? My mother and father we had 2 children, all right? Myself and my sister Chris. I didn't fill it out. My sister Chris is married to a guy by the name of Martin. They have 2 sons, Stephen, who is 21, and Danny, who is 20, okay? My first wife, we were married. We had 1 daughter by the name of Leah. And I remarried, and my current wife, Betty, who you know, had a daughter by the name Rachel. She is married to Anthony, and I have 2 grandchildren, Matt and Lily. Okay? That is my family tree. Okay? You guys have a family tree. This story, as you picked up, right, is about family. Okay? In here. So let me find my cheat sheet. Okay? In here. So let's write a family tree here of Abraham. All right? You can open your book. You can use your book if you want to. This is all right. All right. This is not memory stuff. You can use your book. Okay. In here. All right. Where are we going to start? Yes.
Abraham.
Abraham. That's good. All right. Well, got to start something, right? We're going to call him Abe. All right. Now what do we do? Now what do we put in?
Let me see.
Wait.
Yes.
We put in Sarah.
Need to put in Sarah, right? Okay. Okay. What were their given names? Do you remember what their names was at the start of the story?
Abram and something.
Okay. Yes.
It was Abram and Sarai.
Yeah, Sarai. All right. It's Abram and Sarai. Okay. His name was changed. Put in there. All right. So we got Abraham and Sarah. What's next? Who's next? Isaac. All right.
You go.
All right. Very good. Okay. Isaac was. What's next on the list? What? Ivan? You brought my line. Yes.
Jacob?
Very good. But here is a good question, because this one wasn't listed in there. Anybody know who Isaac's wife's name was?
Jacob.
Isaac's wife's name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. Very good. All right. So, Isaac and Rebecca have how many kids? 2. All right. What are their names? What?
I know how to spell it. It's E-R-S-H-U, right?
No.
I don't know.
It's Esau. You're on the right track.
No.
Okay, is Esau the oldest or the youngest?
I said first.
Oldest.
Don't come in.
All right. And the younger one's name's what? Jacob. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I don't want to build a stone.
There. 2 sons. All right. Now where do we go on this family tree?
The whole time.
Yes.
Jacob married Rachel.
Jacob married Rachel. All right.
Hey, Rachel.
How are we gonna do this?
Rachel.
I'm gonna go down here. Jacob married Rachel. All right. Just one wife?
No.
Yeah. All right. Who else did you marry?
No, that's the maid. And then you got to draw
What? Yes.
Wasn't it his servant?
Yeah. Actually, there's 2 of them.
And then from me and Peyton, you put me and my mom.
Okay.
My son and daughter.
All right. Who else? Yes. Molly.
Leah.
Leah. Very good.
He had 4 wives.
Okay. Yeah. If you don't have your books open right now, you're not working. So open your books. Okay. This is not memory. I'm not testing your memory here. This is interactive. You, me, Bible, each other. Okay. All right. In here. All right. We got it. In here. You don't have it all. There's more to this tree. Right? How many sons did Abraham have?
12. Wait.
Abraham.
As many as the stars? Yeah.
How many natural sons did he have? We'll
One.
talk about that.
Wow.
2. Grace, you got your hands up, right? What was the other one's name?
Oh yeah.
Ishmael?
Ishmael. Very good. All right. Did you look it up or did you remember it?
I remembered it. Because
Good.
I don't have my book.
All right.
Can't
Ishmael's mother's name was Hagar.
Okay.
Okay.
I have one.
Now, okay. How many sons did Jacob have? 12. Right. We will list 12 of them. Okay. That's next week. All right. The one name we do know about is who? He told the very end.
Yeah. Joseph.
Joseph. Right. Okay. Joseph. Okay. All right. So why does the Bible take all this time, Sam?
Take all this time? Because, well, it takes him a long time to have, like, well, it started with Abraham and Sarah, but then, like, it took them a long time to get to the bottom of their family tree.
This is like,
Plus, it never ends.
it's like yes, sir, because there was no question there. That's right. All right? Remember last week? I listened to you, you listened to me. And we listened to each other. Remember? Okay? Makes life lots easier. All right. So, why does the Bible take all this time to go through this family tree? Yeah.
Well, Abe and Sarah were like 85 or something like that, so they didn't have kids.
Okay. Keep going. So why is that important?
Because, like, I don't know.
Why is that important?
It's one of the miracles of God.
One of the miracles of God. All right? Get more specific. Okay? Miracles of God, how?
Because she had a baby when she was 8 years old.
So that means what? I know this is a little biology here. What?
She's like out of childbearing age.
Yeah. She's too old. Right? So the way she has a child is, you said a minute ago, right? What?
Miracles of God.
Miracles of God. Okay. All right. Now, put this in context with you here. I need to get my chair. Put this in context with you here a second. Okay. There's another story that someone has a child by the miracle of God. Who is that? I heard it. Somebody, don't whisper it, say it.
What? We were talking about the play.
Yeah?
Well,
This is not in here. This is I'm making you think and put stories together. How this is big story stuff. How it fits together. Yes.
Mary.
Mary, right? Mary's son was Jesus. Right. By the same way, right? In here, you said, Sarah has a child basically because it's the miracle of God, because God says so, right? And you know the story, Christ's story, right? Mary has a child by the miracle of God. Okay. Not the first time Mary's not the first time it happened in the Bible. Okay? Stories repeat themselves in the Bible going in here. Okay? Why else? There's more stuff. Why else does God spend so much time on this story? That's just one. We rabbit trail one thing. Okay?
Well, it kind of also symbolizes the coming of the Savior and how we deserve something, but when we can be saved by them. Like when I think Isaac was going to be sacrificed. Instead of him, it was the ram and the tree thing.
Okay? All right. In here. All right? Right? I'm going to use my crutch, right? Up at Isaac, right? Because Abraham's asked, you mentioned right, that we'll pick up that one, right? Abraham is asked to sacrifice Isaac, right?
Right.
Okay? In here, all right? I want to pick on parents here a second, give you a heads up, all right? Parents, how do you deal with this passage?
Very difficult, because we had that conversation about it. How could he do that, was the question I got. I don't have, I mean, he obviously put his faith in God, but I don't know that I could be the same. It would be very different.
Janet, you got 2 sons.
I agree, that would be, you know, I'd like to think you could follow what God was telling you to do, but it'd be hard.
Pam, you got a son?
I agree with them. It would be very, very, very hard.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you guys come up with? You want to share your answer? Since you guys discuss this. All right.
What did you, I can't remember all of them. Let's talk about it.
What was your struggle? What was your struggle from on the other end?
I guess, well, I guess it's kind of weird, because how can they live to be so old, and we can't live to be that old today, but we have like medicine and technology and stuff.
All right.
We're talking about Isaac.
Talk about sacrifice Isaac. All right.
What did you think when you read that?
It's kind of scary.
Yeah. Yes, Haley.
I was gonna say me and my mom discussed it. She agreed with like those moms. But what I thought was how like in a child like a kid's perspective, it'd be scary to think that your parent would light you on fire. As sacrifice. I mean, it's scary. That would scare me. I would not just lay there. I'd be like getting up and running away.
Yeah. Yeah. And you bring up a good side of this, right? What is it?
Why did they keep that away?
Exactly.
Because they tied them down.
Well, yeah. Okay. Let me give you a little background here to the story. All right. A little background to the story here is Abraham and Isaac would have sacrificed animals regularly. Okay. As father and son. What they would have done is very similar to this. They would have built some sort of stone altar in here and placed wood underneath this, okay? They would have taken some sort of animal, okay? This one uses a ram, so a male sheep. They would have taken a ram and they would have cut its throat. I know it gets gross, all right? They would have cut its throat, all right? And then they would have burned it all up. Bless you. All right? That's how they sacrificed to God. All right? The fact that Abraham has done this, he done this with Isaac. Okay? So I'll pick it here. All right? It doesn't say what age, but I will pick the age. Okay? Isaac is 13. Yeah, Grace Owens is exactly where I'm going, don't you? Right? And sitting here saying, okay, going in and they're walking down and they're walking. This isn't just a one-day thing now, this is a 3-day thing. And they go down here, all right. And when they start building this altar and they start building this stone, they start putting the wood on here. Do you think Isaac knows what's happened? Here?
No.
No?
How could any child fathom it? And I think that's the one thing that I struggle with most is why would God even ask him to do this?
Hang on to that. All right? So, all right? But you sit here, at some point in time, he doesn't know it in advance, at some point in time, he's going to catch on, right? When Abraham has him hop up on the altar and ties his hands and feet. And he's looking up at Dad, and Dad's got this great big butcher knife in his hand. All right? Put yourself in Isaac's shoes, guys. What are you thinking here?
Yeah,
Scream.
All right?
I just want them.
It's kind of incomprehensible, isn't it? All right? And hard to fathom and hard to grasp. Okay? sacrificing your only son. All right. I'm going to fast forward you to the New Testament now. Who else was an only son that got sacrificed? Yeah,
Jesus.
Jesus. When we talk about Jesus is God, Jesus is man, and all those things, but remember, God is still his Father. He prayed Abba Father all the time, right? And you see in the Gospels all over. It's this incomprehensible thing. I think this story is in here to help us, to give us a grasp of this incomprehensibleness of this. All right? This is what God did for you. This is the story. This is what Jesus did for you. Because when Jesus is, when on the altar, take it a little bit more because I love doing this, right? When Jesus is sitting here on the altar, or when Isaac is on the altar, right? Abraham's got his knife up, and God calls, wait, right? When Jesus is laying on the ground, and they got his arm stretched out, and the guy's got a nail in it right here, and the hammer, and nobody says, wait. Okay. To give us a grasp of this incomprehensibleness. Okay. Don't think this, as hard as this story is, I think this story is here precisely because it's hard to help you grasp what God did earlier. Okay? You guys are good. Okay? Have you ever heard me use the expression deep into the pool? Okay, I'll explain what I said. When I was 13, 14, your age, maybe a little older, I taught swimming lessons for the Red Cross. That's kind of what I did volunteer in the summertime in here. And we'd have 6-year-olds, okay? 5 and 6-year-olds. That's what they had me working with. And kids that had never been in a swimming pool, okay? Never. And they didn't know how to swim. And we'd take them into the shallow end of the pool, okay? And it was like, we'd get into the pool, and even on the little kids, the 5 and 6-year-olds, we'd get into the water, it'd be knee deep on them, to them, all right? And you'd get in there and you'd practice getting their face wet and get them underwater and take them a little deeper water, okay? And get them swimming, show them how to swim, and take them a little deeper water and show them how to swim in here, okay? And then you kind of go through the days, those lessons for 2 weeks, and by the second week, somewhere along the line, okay, what we've done is we've taken them into the deep end of the pool. All right? And to say what we did is we'd walk them into the deep end of the pool. In here. And suddenly, some of them, nobody would realize, but by Friday of that week, they'd be swimming in the deep end of the pool. Okay? Right? What you guys just did is you guys just jumped into the deep end of the pool. This is deep stuff. And you guys jumped right into it. Okay? This is going to be a fun year. You guys are willing to jump in. If you guys are willing, seriously, you guys are willing to jump into this deep stuff right now, we got a lot of cool stuff we can talk about. Okay? In here. All right. Let me do this. Okay? Other thoughts, comments you want to throw at me, because I got more for you. Okay? We got time. All right. Reader's Theater. Okay? You guys got your skips. All right? Reader's Theater. Okay? I'm gonna. Is that gonna bother you guys?
I'm distracted easily, so.
What's that?
So I'm distracted easily.
All right. There, okay. Right, questions, listen up. This is our reader's theater for our lesson today. All right?
You all have, the name of it is God Builds a Nation. What all, where, how, I'm not been here before for this, how does this work? Can we just start?
What?
Do we read in this box here or just start with the play?
You're near.
Start, yeah.
All right. The calling of Abraham. The Lord had said to Abraham.
Tammy, you glad?
The lights going down was really bad.
Too strong or not too strong?
Go from your country. Sorry.
We'll be good.
Go from your country to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you.
So Abram went as the Lord had told him, even though he did not know where he was going. Then the Lord said to Abram,
Look around you from where you are, to the north and the south, to the east and the west. All the land that you see I will give to you, and your offspring forever. Look up at the sky and count the stars. If indeed you can count them, so shall your offspring be.
Abraham believed the Lord, and without weakening in his face, he faced the fact that his body was as good as dead, since he was about 100 years old, and that his wife's womb was also dead. God said to him,
As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you. As for Sarai, your wife, her name will be Sarah. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations.
Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah as he had said. She became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised him.
some time later, God tested Abraham. He said to him,
Abraham, take your only son whom you love, Isaac, and go to the sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain I will show you.
Early the next morning, Abraham got up and set out for the place God had told him about. As the two of them went together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham,
Father, the world is the fire and wood are here. But where's the lamb for the burnt offering?
God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offerings, my son.
When they reached the place God had told them about, Abraham built an altar there. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar. Then he reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called down to him from heaven,
Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy. I know that you fear, God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son.
Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by his horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as burnt offering instead of his own son.
After Abraham and Sarah died, Isaac married Rebekah. 20 years after the wedding, Rebekah gave birth to twins. Esau, the elder, was his dad's favorite. Jacob, the younger, was clearly his mother's favorite. The two boys vied for the inheritance rights, and Jacob proved to be a master manipulator and schemer.
One day, as Isaac lay in bed, weak and blind, he asked Esau for a tasty meal of charred grilled wild meat. After the meal, Isaac would officially pass on his blessing and God's favor to Esau. This was to be Esau's long-awaited big day.
Rebekah overheard Isaac's plan and came up with a plan of her own. She dressed her favorite son, Jacob, in Esau's clothes. She quickly cooked up some meat and sent Jacob, posing as Esau, into Isaac's bedroom. Isaac, squinting his eyes and touching Jacob, wondered if this was really Esau. Jacob lied to his aged dad, Isaac gaped. After kissing his son and smelling his sin, Isaac was convinced he was talking to Esau. Then Isaac gave the blessing, also confirming the double share of the material inheritance to Jacob.
Soon after, Esau arrived with his own platter of grilled meat, only to discover that Mom and brother had robbed him of his entire family. Angry to the point of fury, he planned to kill Jacob. Rebekah intervened once more and sent Jacob to live with relatives until Esau's anger cleared.
For 20 years, Jacob tended flocks and farmland and grew his family. And finally, he took his large family home to meet Esau once again. But Jacob was careful to approach Esau with respect and humility. The wounds between them were deep and long, and he wasn't sure if Esau was friend or foe.
Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau. When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said,
We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him.
Then Jacob prayed,
Oh God, I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown me. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me.
That night when Jacob was left alone, a man wrestled with him till daybreak. The man knocked Jacob's hip out of the socket. Then the man said to Jacob, Let me go, for it is daybreak.
I will not let you go unless you bless me. What is your name? Jacob. Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans, have over. I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared.
Then Jacob looked up, and there was Esau, coming with his 400 men. So he himself went ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept.
After they recalled him, Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him,
Let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God who answered me in the day of my distress and who has been with me wherever I have gone.
After Jacob returned, God appeared to him and blessed him. God said to him,
A nation and a community of nations will come from you. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac I also give to you, and I give this land to your descendants after you.
Yay! All right.
Do you need this?
Yeah. Here, I'm using it. Mr. Jared!
I'm gonna jump in here for a second. You're gonna help me out here.
Yeah. Hey, heads up, everybody. Does everybody know this guy?
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Wanted to say hi, see how everything's going. Looks like it's going great.
Hi, Jared!
But also want to invite you
Oh,
out.
no. What? You want to say hi?
Hi.
And we go.
Alright. Just want to invite you all to Camp Windermere. It's coming up. I don't know if some of you guys have been. Awesome. October 17th through the 19th, I do believe. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I have not been in the past, but I've heard it's an amazing experience. Great time out Lake of the Ozarks. Pastor Mark's going to help me out a little bit and tell about a little of the stuff that you guys will experience.
Well, you guys are in the back. I see you jumping up and down. You guys go?
Yeah.
Why should everybody go?
It's amazing.
Because they have really good food there. And then the nature is good.
All right?
The sermons they have are pretty good.
Right? Good food, right?
And
Good
there's like
music.
a really pretty church on the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Cave too. There's a cave, clowns.
No, they drove
Balloon ice cream
Yeah.
shop.
All right.
Yeah, nice cream shop.
And it's really pretty in the morning.
Yeah.
And they have like an ice cream shop that you go to in the morning, and it's so good.
Yeah, and they have
It's
like
like
a
the
general
best
store.
ice cream.
They have like a souvenir shop with like general stores. It's really cheap, so yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's fun. And you
There's like an order for
It is fun.
and you walk to your
It's really fun.
food usually,
Yeah.
so then you
Okay.
work all your food off.
Well, remember the
Yeah.
dates, 17th through the 19th. Tell your mom, tell your dad. Who's gonna pass it around? We will be looking for sign-ups soon, so
We'll get
go
to
home
that.
and talk about it, and yeah, we'll get more information out. So coming soon.
And I
You going to the sixth grade room?
I am. Walk over to the next.
Would you like to borrow two of my kids?
Absolutely.
But you know.
How about Sam and Grace? All right? Well, it's okay, I'm not speaking for you. All right, guys. Hey, you guys, when Jared calls on you, because these guys haven't been, so you guys need to talk about it in such a way that these guys are going to want to go. All right? Is that good enough? Perfect. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. All right. Go with Jared, and when you're done with Jared, you can come back. All right. Cool.
He had a swim meet.
Okay.
Or something.
Stories.
I have had a meeting actually.
Oh, stories. Right. Okay. What are some of the big things in that story that you heard? All right. We had. Yes.
God told Abraham to sacrifice his son.
Okay, we talked about that one. Keep going. What was next? Right. Yes.
Abraham proved his fear towards God.
Right.
God gave him a ram to sacrifice.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Jacob prayed.
Jacob prayed. Right. Jacob. How did Jacob and Esau get along? Yeah.
At the beginning, not so good.
At the beginning, not so good. Right. At the end. No, probably. Right. How many of you have brothers or sisters? How many of you fight with your brothers and sisters? Yeah, okay. I'm in there too. Adults? How many of you have brothers and sisters? Yeah, okay, all right. You and only?
My doctor there.
Oh, okay. All right. You're on. All right. Okay. What else you got, right? What else? There's one more word in here I want you to catch on here that's important, right? There was a word we caught last week in here, all right? But it's a word that continues this week. What was the word we talked about last week?
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness, okay? That's that, but what also, right? We talked about it at the beginning of this lesson. Right? In Genesis, God made a what? He made a promise. Made a promise to who? Adam and Eve. Made a promise to who? Last week.
The whole world?
No, last week. Noah, okay? This week, right? God's making a promise to who?
Abraham.
Abraham, right? And what's the promise to Abraham? What's the promise to Abraham? Yeah.
That he will have as many descendants as he can count the stars.
All right. Does it look like that right now?
Sam's.
No.
No. Okay. So we're going to see that transpire. What's the promise to Isaac?
That he will have all the land.
Yeah. Same promise, okay? That you're going to have land. Okay. What's the promise to Jacob? Yeah. Pam's catch, right? It's repetition. God's repeating his promise, okay? The story is, this is this big picture stuff we're talking about. Big story is that God has made these promises, and you see God tracing these promises through his story. And we're going to see him start to fulfill these promises as we go through. Okay? All right. I have more video for you.
Yay, the puppets!
Fuck Deborah.
These are cool.
Haven't you ever seen the Muppets?
No, I actually haven't ever
seen the movie.
Me either.
Neither have I.
You haven't?
Stop.
No.
Well, I think it's because my music teacher was kind of obsessed with them in 4th grade. So I've seen every movie show there is ever.
Well, James is next friend in the other class.
And Sesame Street. So who's the one who was right?
Miss Meyer was
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah, me and fun talk. He knocked me out. What? He knocked me out. Our brother. He punched me in the neck. Yeah, that wasn't a really time.
Okay.
Oh, my brother punched me in the nose and I was bleeding like an entire bucket.
Well,
Like my entire
I
hand
was
was red. Like on both
I just
hands.
like, he punched me in the neck and then I just like laid down in the place.
Well, what time
I thought I would.
All right, where were we? Yes, God's rescue plan. This is where it gets good. Primeval history was the first 11 chapters of Genesis. The rest of Genesis is patriarchal history. Pastor Paul, what is a patriarch?
I know this one. Ian, what are you doing? I know this one. If you have a lot of donuts or danishes and there is a flood, you need a big boat to save them. That boat is called a patriarch. You're kidding me, right?
What?
I didn't say patriarch, I said patriarch. Pastor Paul?
I thought I had that one. He's not with me. Oh, yes. A patriarch is the male head or father of a family.
Well, what if it's a mother?
Then it's the matriarch.
Well, what do you know? So patriarchal history is the story of God working through a series of fathers to save the world. Let's take a look. It's about 2000 BC, or 2,000 years before Jesus was born. And we're in the city of Ur, possibly the biggest city in the world at that time, which was in what is now southern Iraq. Have you heard of Iraq? Yes, it's been in the news. Anyway, that's where Abram lived.
Abram, who's he?
He's our first patriarch. There he was, minding his own business, when God launched his rescue plan by tapping Abram on the shoulder. Abram heard a voice say, "Leave your father's house and go to the land I will show you." Abram figured this voice was God and thought he better listen to him. So he and his wife Sarah left Ur and wandered off following God's voice. And so God's plan began.
That's how it starts. Two people wandering away from town.
Yep, an act of faith. That's always how God's plans start. Someone hears God's voice, they believe, and they follow. And God uses them to do amazing things. God had found a man who would listen to him, so he made Abram 3 promises. First, he said, "You will be the father of a great nation." Second, he said, "Through you, all the families of the earth will be blessed." Something very good would happen to the whole world because of Abram. Finally, God told Abram he would give his children their own land, the land of Canaan. They called it the Promised Land. To celebrate these big promises, God gave Abram a new name, Abraham, which means father of many. The new name was kind of ironic since Abraham and Sarah didn't have any kids at all. Abraham was 75 when God called him out of Ur, and he and Sarah had never been able to have kids.
So why would God pick someone to have kids who couldn't have kids? Yeah, that doesn't make much sense.
Because God can do anything. And if someone who can't have kids has kids because God says they were going to have kids, all you can say is hallelujah.
That's right. Sure enough, when Abraham was 100 years old, he and Sarah had a son named Isaac. And they couldn't say, "Look what we did," because they knew it wasn't them. It was God. So they said, "Hallelujah, look what God can do." Where's that music coming from? Brother Louis, is that you?
Hallelujah, his promises come true. If God is who he says, then we can trust his promises. So, hallelujah, look what God can do.
By faith, Abraham left his home in Ur.
What's faith?
Faith is believing that God is who he says he is, and that he'll do what he says he'll do. God said Abraham would have a son, even though his wife couldn't have kids, and he was crazy old. And Abraham believed God. He had faith, and God gave him a son. Now, our faith grows the most when it's tested. So God asked Abraham if he would give up his son.
Give up his son? What did God want him to do that?
God didn't want Abraham to give up Isaac. He wanted him to be willing to give up Isaac. God wanted to know if Abraham trusted him more than anything. Wanted to know if he would let go of everything before he let go of God.
So what happened? Did Isaac have to die?
I don't like this story.
Hold on. At the last minute, as Abraham was ready to sacrifice Isaac to give him up to God, God sent an angel to stop him. And then he provided a ram for the sacrifice to take Isaac's place. Now God knew that Abraham trusted him completely. And Abraham and Isaac's faith grew because they knew God would keep his promises always. And they cried out,
Hallelujah, 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 promises come evidence and character says God will work a miracle, so hallelujah, hallelujah.
now Isaac lived by faith, just as his father had before him. He got married and had a son named Jacob. Jacob trusted God too, and God gave him a whole mess of sons. His favorite was Joseph.
Oh, I know about Joseph. He's the one with a fancy coat.
Right. His brothers didn't like it, though. They thought it was too flashy.
Well, actually, his brothers were jealous that their father loved Joseph the most. So they decided to get rid of Joseph once and for all by selling him.
What?
Thought it was getting
On three. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Wait, what?
Oh, on three, right? 1, 2, 3. That's next week. All right. Where my hat here? All right. Take out your sheets that you had where you wrote your the handout sheets I gave you. On the bottom down there, right? On the bottom of that first page in here, there's a couple of questions in there, right? Which character in the story are you most like? All right? Or if you had to wrestle with God over something, what would it be? Okay? Now, what I'd like you to do is either write it out, journal entry, prayer, poem, collage, sketch, whatever you want to do that reminds you. However, if you're a picture person, write a picture. If you're a poetry person, do it that way. If you're verbal, do it, write it out. Yeah. Yes.
Could we just choose one of these?
Yes. Just either one.
Last time I did all of them.
Okay. All right. Okay. Everybody got it? Everybody's processing something? All right. Who's still writing? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. If you're still writing, that's fine. Let me pay attention. I'm going to fill in some blanks here for you. Just kind of background information, kind of going back here. We're kind of jumping around a little bit. Okay. We talked about the family tree, right? Okay. Now, see if you can pick up on this. See if I get in here. Who calls their father Abraham? There's three main religions that are represented by this chart here. Okay. The first one is, yes.
Jewish.
Jewish, right? And they call their fathers, their descendants of who?
Abraham.
Abraham, and then keep going.
And Sarah.
Right? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? Okay, you with me? Everybody? Shake your head, yes, no, right? Okay, all right. The second major religion represented on this is? The obvious one. Is? Christians, right? Everybody go, yay! Because we didn't get this far yet in this story. Remember it said Jacob had 12 sons? One of Jacob's sons is a guy by the name of Judah. And you start going down the family trees a couple thousand years or so, and one of Jacob's sons down the family tree far enough is a guy by the name of Joseph, who is credited as being the earthly father. And another one of his daughters of Judah in here is a girl who really was pregnant in here by the name of Mary. Both Mary and Joseph were descendants of Judah, descendants of Jacob. You with me in here? All right? So Jesus falls in this family tree like way down one floor below. Okay? Now, the other one in here is this is current day stuff you hear in the news. All right? Everybody's familiar with Islam, right? Yes? No, thank you, Molly. Jumping with me here. Right, Islam, okay? Those followers of Islam say that their heritage, that their line comes through not Isaac, but Ishmael. Okay? Remember in the story, how well did Isaac and Ishmael get along?
Not so good.
Not so good, right? Okay? So that's kind of a historical 4,000-year-old background to a current problem in here, right? Because the Muslims and the Jews, right? Do they get along today? Do Muslims and Christians get along? Well, it depends on which kind of Muslim you're talking about, right? In here, Muslims and Jews don't get along at all, right? This is a 4,000-year-old story. This argument between the Muslims and the Jews started with Isaac and Ishmael. That's where it started, okay? In here. That's a little historical background to this modern-day problem that falls in this family tree, okay? Now, if you want to get into that, we could get into that a lot more as well, but I don't have time, okay? We can do that later. All right. Your homework for next week, write this down on something. Your homework for next week is to read chapter 4. We're skipping 3, I know. Read chapter 4.
Should I tell my mom to read chapter 4?
Yes.
In the big one?
Okay. In your books, okay? All right? You're going to bring what to class?
My book!
And?
A pencil.
A pencil. Right, okay? All right. Let me think. Yes, sir. Bring your Bibles. Okay, we're not into it, but that, if you have your Bible, it gives us the opportunity to get into it if we need it, okay? You won't need your catechisms with right now, okay? So if you're looking to offload stuff, leave your catechisms at home, okay? All right? What I need you to do, hang on. Okay. I need everybody but Molly to help put the chairs up. And I need one volunteer.
I got it.
All right, you're in.